In our journey through history's greatest spiritual figures, we began with Nikola Tesla, a visionary who revealed to us the hidden codes of energy, frequency, and vibration, reminding humanity that the universe itself is a living symphony of consciousness. Tesla's life showed us how science and spirituality intertwine, how the human mind, when aligned with higher frequencies, becomes a bridge between the physical and the divine. Now we continue this sacred exploration with another towering figure, one whose influence surpasses time, geography, and culture, Prophet Mohammed. Where Tesla opened our eyes to the spiritual architecture of the universe, Mohammed demonstrates how divine consciousness flows into human character, into compassion, forgiveness, resilience, and leadership. He is not remembered merely as a historical leader or founder of a faith, but as a living symbol of what happens when a human being surrenders fully to the infinite and allows truth to become action. Throughout history, humanity has looked toward extraordinary figures who embody the very essence of divine alignment, men and women who carried within them a light that shifted civilizations, who moved with such clarity, compassion, and resilience that their lives became timeless symbols of what humanity can achieve when connected to higher truth. Among these rare figures, Prophet Mohammed stands as one of the most profound. His story is not merely a biography of a religious leader. It is the unfolding of a consciousness so deeply aligned with divine order that it reshaped the destiny of nations and continues to inspire spiritual seekers across the globe. To study him is to study the power of forgiveness, the discipline of simplicity, and the reality that humans can live in harmony with divine consciousness. But the Mohammed you will discover here is not just a figure of scripture or tradition. He is also a symbol of resilience, of the human potential to rise from humble beginnings, endure hardship, and yet radiate compassion. He is proof that the bridge between heaven and earth is not reserved for saints or mystics alone, but available to all who surrender ego, cultivate truth, and live in alignment with God's presence. Muhammad was born in Mecca in the 6th century, into a world of tribal divisions, material wealth, and spiritual emptiness. He entered life not with privilege but with loss. His father died before he was born. His mother died when he was only 6. Orphaned, he was passed between caretakers, first his grandfather, then his uncle Abu Talib. This early exposure to instability and loss could have hardened him, yet instead it softened his heart, sharpening his empathy for the poor, the oppressed, and the vulnerable. In many spiritual traditions, early suffering becomes the crucible that prepares a soul for greatness. Muhammad's childhood was marked by humility, not abundance, responsibility, not indulgence. He worked as a shepherd, guiding sheep across the harsh desert terrain. What may seem like a simple job was in fact deep training, teaching him patience, attentiveness, and a connection to the rhythms of nature. Shepherds learned to listen, to lead without force, to protect the weak, and to endure long nights under the stars. These lessons would later shape him as the shepherd of an entire people. Even as a young man, Muhammad became known in Mecca as Al-Amin, the trustworthy. His honesty in trade, his reliability in dealings, and his fairness in disputes set him apart. He was not known for wealth or power, but for integrity, a rare quality in a society driven by status and tribal rivalry. This foundation of character would become the soil upon which divine revelation would later fall. Long before his first revelation, Muhammad was a man of contemplation. The bustling markets and the chaos of Meccan politics were never enough to satisfy his spirit. He sought solitude, climbing to the Cave of Hira, a quiet sanctuary nestled in the mountains overlooking Mecca. There, he would sit in silence, reflecting, praying, and aligning himself with the mystery of existence. This was not mere isolation. It was spiritual preparation. Many seekers throughout history, from Buddha under the Bodhi tree to Jesus in the wilderness, entered seasons of solitude before their greatest mission. Muhammad's retreats into silence remind us of a universal truth. Transformation is born in stillness. It is in the quiet spaces that the soul learns to listen, to attune itself to higher frequencies. During these retreats, Muhammad wasn't following a religious formula. He was simply seeking truth. His heart, already tuned to honesty and compassion, now stretched toward the infinite. His willingness to disconnect from society's noise created the space for divine wisdom to reach him. For spiritual seekers today, the Cave of Hira symbolizes the sacred necessity of retreat. To step away from distraction, to recalibrate, to let divine consciousness speak. At the age of 40, during one of his meditative retreats, the silence was shattered. The angel Gabriel appeared with a message that would ignite a spiritual revolution. Read. Though illiterate, Mohammed was commanded to recite. The revelation was not merely words, it was an infusion of divine consciousness, a recognition that human beings are vessels capable of carrying the infinite. The moment was overwhelming. He trembled, unsure of what had happened. He returned home, shaken, to his wife Khadija, who comforted him and confirmed his experience as a calling, not madness. In that moment, Khadija became the first believer and the anchor of Muhammad's mission. Together they carried the burden of this divine encounter, a reminder that great spiritual awakenings are not born alone but through the support of those who recognize truth. This first revelation marked a threshold. Muhammad was no longer merely a man of integrity or contemplation. He became the messenger, a conduit of divine wisdom. Yet what is striking is how human his reaction was. He feared, he doubted, he trembled, and yet he persevered. Spiritual awakening is not about eliminating fear, but about moving through it with faith. As Muhammad began sharing his revelations, he was met not with acceptance, but with resistance. His message threatened the power structures of Mecca, where tribal leaders thrived on inequality, idol worship, and wealth. He was mocked, ridiculed, and even plotted against. Yet what defined him was not retaliation, but forgiveness. When his enemies insulted him, he did not curse them back. When they plotted to kill him, he relied on patience. When they exiled him, he bore it with dignity. And later, when he returned to Mecca in triumph, he did not massacre his enemies. He forgave them. This forgiveness was not weakness, but strength. It was proof that true spiritual power lies not in conquering others, but in conquering the self, the ego, the urge for revenge. This quality of radical forgiveness reveals his deep alignment with divine consciousness. For if God's essence is mercy, then the highest reflection of God in human form is the capacity to forgive. In Muhammad, we see that forgiveness is not passive. It is active power, a force that disarms hatred and transforms society. What can today's seekers learn from the early life of Prophet Mohammed? That suffering can become the soil of empathy. That solitude is essential for spiritual clarity. That integrity, lived consistently, is the foundation for divine trust. That fear and doubt are not signs of weakness but invitations to faith. That forgiveness is the highest spiritual weapon, capable of breaking cycles of hatred. Prophet Muhammad's story reminds us that greatness is not a divine accident, but the fruit of discipline, stillness, and surrender. He shows us that every human has the potential to embody divine light, not through perfection, but through persistence in truth. As we conclude this first part, we see the picture of a man shaped by loss, trained by humility, refined by silence, and chosen by the infinite. His early life was not the life of a conqueror or a scholar, but of a seeker, one who dared to look beyond the noise of his time and listen to the whisper of eternity. In part 2, we will journey deeper into his role as leader, teacher, and unifier, a man who transformed society not through force, but through forgiveness, wisdom, and resilience. And through him, we will uncover the timeless truth that humans too can align with God's power when they live in truth, compassion, and courage.